Okay, welcome everyone to the info session for the master's program in engineering and public policy. Uh, Up to you. I definitely encourage you to turn your videos on so I can see who I'm talking to, but I know you might be in a space where it doesn't make sense to turn them on. That's okay. Um, what I'm planning to do is just give you a bit of an overview of the program. We have an hour for this session. But what I'll do is provide an overview of the program, and then I'll give time for you to ask your questions. Maybe if I think we have 15 people that signed up, so if not everybody joins, if it's small like this, maybe we can even introduce ourselves and talk about what kinds of things we're thinking about with the program. You can ask your questions. So I'll start with a general overview. So I'm Jeremey Michalek. I'm a professor in engineering and public policy. I'm also a professor of mechanical engineering and a professor in civil and environmental engineering. And I'm the chair of the EPP Master's Program Committee. So it's common in engineering and public policy that faculty have appointments in other departments or even other colleges. We are a very interdisciplinary group. We tend to focus on problems rather than disciplines or methods, which means depending on the problem we're solving, sometimes we need a social scientist, sometimes we need a chemical engineer. So we like to keep a diverse body of faculty who have depth in a traditional engineering discipline and who think about these problems at the interface of engineering and public policy. And so I have my other appointments in mechanical and civil, but other faculty have appointments including in the Heinz School of Public Policy, which is it's a separate school that's about information systems and public policy, whereas the engineering and public policy department is a department within the engineering college. So they're separate units, but we interact. And we have faculty with appointments in the business school and most of the traditional engineering disciplines. So we do a lot of different kinds of work, but I would say the kind of biggest thrusts of our work focus on policy relevant problems for which technical details are central. There are other kinds of policy relevant problems that are important, but we focus on the ones in which having engineering domain knowledge is really helpful to understanding the policy problem, that if you don't have that knowledge, you might make some mistakes in policy. And also there are many kinds of engineering problems that aren't policy specific, and we like to focus on those. Sometimes we're addressing policy directly. Sometimes we're just thinking about engineering at a level that is policy relevant, and I can provide some examples. So a lot of our work is on climate and environment and energy systems. We do work on information and communication technology policy, which includes a wide range of things from internet security to management of the frequency spectrum for wireless communication. We also do risk analysis and risk communication and technology innovation policy, among other topics. So Carnegie Mellon, how it compares to other institutions, I would say EPP is a very unique department. There are a few other places in the world that you can go to try to get some kind of combination of engineering and policy. Carnegie Mellon is a unique place to do this. First, I would say that interdisciplinary collaboration runs really deep in our culture. It's not something that we really do a lot of top-down on. It's just a big part of the culture here, that people reach across disciplines and enjoy working together, learning from each other, and addressing problems that sort of lie at the interface between disciplines. So we're very used to that, and you'll see it all over campus. The engineering and public policy program, I mentioned this earlier, we're really organized around important societal problems rather than specific disciplines or methods. So we may be addressing one problem where we need certain kinds of tools, and then we realize sort of the next big problem is a different kind of problem where we need different kinds of methods or tools. Well, we'll learn those, or we'll bring in an expert as part of the project so we can all work together on that. So we tend to focus on like problems that are big for society rather than just using a particular method on lots of problems. I've already talked about the joint appointments that our faculty have. I think I forgot to mention that computer science is another department, or is another college where faculty member hold joint appointments. And I would say that one thing about the EPP alumni network is that we're not as big as some other universities, but we really do this interface between engineering and policy very well. And so our alumni go on to be places in government, in business, in consulting, in NGOs, where this interface is happening. So if you're working at this interface, you're probably going to run into our graduates. In fact, I was presenting at a conference last week, and some of my co-authors from the conference are now working at the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, at national labs, at we've had faculty that have served on as actually, I'll come to that in another slide to give more examples of this. But a lot of our alumni and even our current faculty and students have this play roles in which this interface is really important. So if you're interested in playing at this interface, you're likely to interact with our alumni. So this is what I said I would show in a minute, is that our faculty do a lot of active engagement because we're solving these problems that have policy relevance, so we try to inform that policy. So some of that takes the form of advisory leadership, like EPP faculty chairing a variety of advisory committees which provide input from experts on how agencies should be making decisions. Public service, Lori Craner served as the Chief Technologist for the Federal Trade Commission and John Peha for the Federal Communications Commission. We have these periods where faculty will take a break from the university for a year and maybe do some service. And the person I mentioned a moment ago was Costa Samaras, who's currently doing that type of service at the White House. Informing policy, so there's a lot of paths that we use to inform policy. I just completed serving on a National Academies panel for low carbon transportation fuels. We did a briefing yesterday for a bunch of government workers in agencies who use life cycle assessment to determine what kind of transportation fuels can help reduce carbon and what policy should be around those. And so we provided our recommendations and had a discussion with them. That's the kind of engagement that we're doing all the time. Entrepreneurship, we like to highlight Jay Whitaker as an example. He came up with a battery technology while a professor here and ended up building a company out of that and spun that company off. I understand that he's currently starting up another startup company that I have yet to learn about, but startup technology is turning into, so EPP itself is not so focused on technology development, but some of our faculty do technology development and end up with these entrepreneurship pathways. And then also some of the work in EPP has laid the foundation for some of today's technologies that we all take for granted. So I will mention that the EPP community is a really active, intellectually engaged, intellectually diverse community. I think that I have appointments in multiple departments. I interact with students in a lot of departments, and I would say, by comparison, EPP tends to draw a lot of applicants who have prior experience. We certainly have plenty of EPP applicants who apply right out of undergrad, but they get to mix and mingle with other applicants who already have a master's degree, or who worked in industry or in government for a while, or did their own consulting for a few years, and then decided that what they really wanted was to grow that knowledge and ability to apply at this interface of engineering and policy, and came to us in order to build that knowledge. And so what's great about that is it makes a really great student body to interact with, because you get people with all kinds of life experiences related to this interface that motivated them to come here, and they sort of share and support one another. This slide is showing where our graduates go for the graduate program as a whole. We are starting to get enough graduates from the master's program specifically that we'll be able to show statistics like this in the coming years. But we've only been recruiting people into the master's program directly for a few years. And it takes time for them to graduate and for us to get statistics of where they end up. So what I'm showing you here is the graduates from the overall graduate program, which is mostly from the PhD students. I'm showing it to you even though this is more PhD students, because this distribution is where I expect our master's student statistics to end up as we get more data on them. And that is that it's a nice mix of where students end up. So some students in the master's program will go on to do a PhD, either here or somewhere else. There's a master's student who I did some research with this past year who ended up in the PhD program at the University of Michigan. And actually, I'm continuing to do research with him over there. We're writing a paper. So some master's program is designed for a path of practice, but it also sets up some of our students to go on to an academic track. And then many of our students will go on to industry positions or government positions, including national labs and NGOs. And then many can go on to think tanks and consulting. And then other pathways as well. I think the main point is that this program is set up to be flexible, and so we're not expecting all of our graduates to end up in one place. We expect them to be working at the interface of engineering and policy in a variety of different locations. So in terms of support for students, one of the things we have is several advisors and who are on the call today. So Nestle Osdoenler is the academic advisor, and she serves the Masters in Engineering and Public Policy students, as well as students in our other master's program, the Engineering Technology Innovation Management program. Nestle, did you want to say a little bit about academic advising?
Sure. Hi, again, my name is Nestle. I work with both EPP-MS and ETIM-MS students. Typically, I take care of many of the needs that the students have in terms of finding classes, kind of navigating Carnegie Mellon, finding resources, making sure you are, following your degree appropriately and graduating on time. But then we also assign faculty advisors if you need that extra step and wanted to talk to somebody who is, have expertise in one area, but can probably guide you in a larger area within engineering and public policy. So we also do that on top of what I provide for students. So.
Thank you, Nestle. And then Jenny, who's also on the line with us, focuses on career and professional development. Jenny, did you want to say a few words about that?
Sure. Hi, nice to see you all. Again, Jenny, anything related to your career and professional growth. That could be resume, cover letter, professional communications, networking, our alumni network as we continue to build that with our PhDs and our EPP MS. We try to, our alumni are off doing wonderful things, and we try to keep you all connected and hold sessions. And so always available to answer any questions that I can. And if I don't know, I'll work, with our advisors and faculty too, to team up to find some good help for you guys in any areas that you need.
Thank you, Jenny. And then there are other staff in the department who support. Debbie Kuntz is here. I didn't list her on this slide, but she's also involved in the master's committee that I'll talk about in a minute, and she also helps students with a number of administrative related issues, including helping to coordinate and communicate about department events and activities. So we have seminars and social events, networking events, and alumni connections that you can take advantage of as a student here. Plus, the department offers a number of these things, but the broader Carnegie Mellon University provides a lot of student support, maybe too many to list, but if you have any questions, we can certainly point you to types of support that Carnegie Mellon provides. Okay, so I mentioned that there is a committee, a master's committee. It's composed of faculty, staff, and students. And these students include current students in the program. And part of their role is to attend these meetings. We have them every other week. And we talk about issues with the master's program. Setting up this info session for you was something we did through this committee. But the students also will bring ideas from other students in the program into the discussion so we can consider them and think about ways to improve the program, improve the experience for our students, or maybe address questions that they have. So this is the current composition of the committee. I hope I didn't forget anyone that's currently serving on the committee. And we do, as Nestle mentioned, students who are in the master's program have an academic advisor, Nestle, but also get assigned a faculty advisor. So usually one of these 4 faculty would be a primary point of contact in case you had questions that are better for faculty to answer and wanted some support. And we can either help you with those questions directly or help connect you with somebody who would be a good match for the questions that you have. And so if you were to join the master's program in EPP, this would be a place that you could be involved in both in participating and helping to make the program better and help better at meeting your needs and the needs of your fellow students. So what the committee does is it makes decisions about the master's curriculum. I will talk about the curriculum in a moment. We are currently considering some changes to that curriculum which would not apply to the incoming class, but might help students to take advantage of some of the project courses that we offer. So those are the kinds of things that the committee considers. We also consider student ideas, requests, and appeals. And we manage application and admissions decisions. So if you submit an application, members of this committee will be reviewing your application and deciding if you're a fit for the program. We also help manage the program website and communications, and I strongly encourage you to visit that website if you have not already. You can see videos of our students talking about their experience in the program. You can get more information about how to apply and questions like funding. And you can also see a list of the students who are in the program now. There's a lot of good information on the website. We also do formal program assessments, and we coordinate general program needs and look for ways to improve student experiences. So this is a summary of the curriculum in the master's program. It is designed to give you a core basis, but be flexible enough that you can customize that to your needs. Since different students in the program are interested in different engineering domains, you get a degree of customizability to make sure that you're getting the right skills for the career that you are building. So all students take these 2 core courses, 701 and 702. 701 is Theory and Practice of Policy Analysis, and this course involves a lot of reading to get you up to speed on how policy making is done, what kinds of considerations are used, what kinds of analysis can be done to support policy to help make better decisions, and what are some of the issues and critiques. So you'll get a lot of broad exposure in 701. And 702, Quantitative Methods for Policy Analysis, develops a bunch of the methods for doing these analyses. For example, in cost-benefit analysis, you try to quantify all of the benefits that would result from a policy, but also all of the costs, all the disadvantages, and weigh them to see if on balance you're doing something that creates net benefits to society. So you have to know how to do that type of method and what kinds of issues come up. So these will give everybody the core that you need to be working at this interface. In addition, we want all students to take 24 units of quantitative methods. At Carnegie Mellon, we measure courses in units rather than credits. And 1 unit is about 1 hour per week of work over the course of a semester. So if you have a 12-unit course, which is the typical course size that for most of the courses our graduate students take, That means 12 hours a week of work, including class time and homework, over the course of a semester. And so we offer a range of quantitative methods courses, and you can choose the ones that are most relevant to you. A number of courses in statistics and data analysis, optimization, and quantitative entrepreneurship. The last course is a course that I'm one of the instructors for, and I co-developed that course with Erica Fuchs, where we teach students methods to assess the economic viability of a new technology. Students work on projects with real sponsors who have real technologies that have not been commercialized yet. And we build models to estimate what it would cost to build a manufacturing facility to produce that technology and what kind of market response there might be for that technology. And we identify levers for improving economic viability, like what could we do differently about the design or the process for that product to help improve viability. So just an example of the kind of courses. And then we also ask students to take 24 units, which is usually 2 courses, in social analysis methods. And those might include things like economics, energy policy, organizational behavior, courses that address the social side, which you need to go beyond just pure engineering and think about all of the factors that come to play when looking at the policy issues with an engineered product. And then finally, you have 24 units of electives, and this allows you to be very customized to your domain. If you want to pick up a couple of engineering courses, a machine learning course, some project courses, you can do up to 18 units of research with a faculty member and have that count toward the degree as well. And I've done that with a couple of master's students in the last couple of years. The thing I forgot to mention was the program by default is a 3-semester program. However, many students complete the whole program in 2 semesters by taking a higher workload. So for some students, it's better to take 3 semesters, either for visa issues or because they would like to have more time in order to dig deeper on the topics. Some students want to push and get through, and we can accommodate both within this program. That is what I had to present today. What questions do you have?
So hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Yu Cheng.
Oh, hi, how are you? So I just have this question because I'm rather interested in the integrated BSMS program, because we have, and so I noticed that it listed some of the semesters like which you can apply this. So the thing is, I'm like extending my graduation date by like 2 semesters, and I'm a senior right now. So I'm just wondering, would be like a good time for me to apply the integrated program. So yeah, so like currently this semester is my 7th semester, but I still got like extra 3 semesters. So I'm just don't know if I still fall into that integrated like category. Yeah.
I see. Okay, and so let me first clarify for everybody on. So you're a current Carnegie Mellon student, and what department are you in?
Yes. Oh, I'm in MCS. I'm majoring in chemistry and environmental ESS sustainability studies. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And so current students at Carnegie Mellon can enter the master's program through this integrated bachelor's master's program, and there's an application process for that on the website. And we would be in the same classes with students who have come from other universities to join the master's program. Let's see. Nestle, do you know the answer to this question, or is Debbie better?
I mean, I think I can answer some of the questions. One quick question I have for you is, do you have a minor in EPP at all?
No, not really.
No. Okay. Yeah. I think the person you want to meet with would be like maybe Deanna initially, Deanna Matthews, but typically you have to complete all undergrad degree requirements before you could be considered an official master's student. However, within the last you know, couple of semesters of being an undergrad, if you have the space, you can start taking the grad level courses. And depending on how your curriculum would move forward when you are in your undergrad program, you know, the requirement is that you have to have grad status for at least one semester as an MS, coded as an MS student. And obviously, depending on what other requirements you have, you might need two. But, and Debbie, if you have anything to add, I think that would be good. Applying too early, if you still have 3 more semesters of undergraduate work, it might not be right now. Usually, second semester junior or your first year as a senior, I think is when students typically apply. But Debbie might know a little bit better.
Yeah, I would suggest coming in and talking to Dr. Matthews. We often work with current students that are hoping that their long-term track will be to be an MS or PhD student. So that's definitely something we can talk to you about. Just send an email out to us and we'll get you scheduled to come in and have a face-to-face conversation. That would be better.
All right. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ankita. Thanks for today's info session. I'm currently a master's student at UC Berkeley studying engineering and public policy, and I'm looking to apply to the PhD program. As a part of my master's, I've taken a number of the core classes that are required for the PhD. And I wanted to ask if the department allows students to waive out of any of the required coursework for the PhD program. You're on mute, Jeremy.
Thank you. I was saying that may be a good question for Nestle. There are, you can check out of courses that you've already met the requirements in other ways, but the details are something Nestle would know a little better.
So with the PhD, I'm not as I guess knowledgeable. I am thinking you could transfer courses in. I could look it up and get back to you. I know for the master's, if the students have taken courses and have not used it towards a degree at another institution, they can transfer in. But for the you know, EPP PhD, I would have to kind of look it up or check with a colleague from the EPP. Vicky Finney handles the PhD students. There could even be a petition process that's happening. But let me look online to see if there's anything about that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Debbie, do you know anything about the curriculum for the PhD program?
It's a little different. We do have the required classes, of course, the core classes that can only be gotten through EPP. We will look, of course, at the classes you've taken in other programs to make that decision. But the main goal of it is to consider that we're not looking for you to take classes just to take classes. We're looking to set a firm foundation for you to do research. So it's a very individual process. Again, there are certain things that are required, but beyond that, we also look for what you are weak at, what you might need a refresher in. For instance, you might have had some of the required courses or what your advisor feels is required back in your early years, and we want you to get something a little stronger with that. But yeah, definitely, you know, it's something you discuss with your advisor to make sure you're taking the classes that would set you up to do a good job on your research.
That makes sense. Thank you.
There was a private question. Let me address that first, and then we'll get to Misaki's question.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get to your question in one moment. So there was a question private in the chat about the application requirements and the GRE waiver. So I believe it is true that we are not accepting GRE scores this year. So the GRE is automatically waived. Thank you, Debbie. So the GRE is automatically waived for everybody. Application requirements, if so through the application will ask you to submit things like your I can't think of the word, the sheet with all the grades on it from your prior institution.
Your transcript.
Transcript, thank you. your transcript. There's some essay questions about, what your interest in the program and some of your prior experience and what makes you a good fit for this program. And for students who are not native English speakers, we require a test, but we are flexible on the test. And I'm not sure if I know exactly those requirements. They should be on the website, but I believe we have reviewed TOEFL and Debbie, can you help me? Which are the language tests that we accept?
We do take TOEFL, IELTS, and Duolingo. We do find that Duolingo is easily done from at home and tends to be a little cheaper. So we do recommend that. It's also easier to schedule them. Sometimes getting in to take one of the other tests is problematic simply because of location or cost. So Duolingo is also accepted.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Masaki.
Yeah, thank you for a good opportunity to get information about your class. I now work for government for Japan, and I'm interested in financial services using blockchain technology. And one of my colleagues is studying in your class. His name is Kawai Daisuke, and I'm interested in studying in your course. And so I have two questions. One is there thesis class or thesis requirement for master class in your program? And the other is what is outstanding point from combination between public policy sector and engineering viewpoint in your EPP class?
Okay, great. Can you ask the first question again?
Thesis class is thesis writing class. Thesis so is required.
You're talking about the statistics?
No, I think maybe thesis. Were you asking to see if a graduate thesis is required?
Yeah.
Oh, thesis,
Okay.
thesis.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Thesis. There is no thesis requirement for the master's degree. It is a coursework focused master's. So if you meet the master's course requirements, then you pass with a master's degree. You have the option to do master's research as part of the satisfying the requirements. Up to 18 units can be counted in research, and that is done by finding a faculty member. You find a match. Basically, if there's a faculty member whose research is interesting to you, you can ask them if they have a project, and that could. But usually in those cases, there's still no thesis. You may or may not write a paper with that faculty member. Each research project is unique, and so there's not a standardized way. But there's no master's thesis for the program as a whole.
I understood.
And what was the second question again?
So I'm gathering information from the viewpoint of a combination of public policy and technology. So what is the outstanding point of your program from these viewpoints?
What's the outstanding point of the program from the viewpoint of the intersection between engineering and policy? Yeah, I would say that most programs either focus on one or the other. So if they focus on engineering, they're developing, the models of how things work in the physical world and how to change them to improve some target, better efficiency, lower costs, those kinds of things. In the public policy world, there is more study of the economic, social, and governance type questions around policy. But most of those policy questions don't focus on engineered products where you need to know the details of the engineered product in order to regulate it well. What we really focus on in a unique way is our students have deep technical knowledge on their domain, and then they look at broad systems questions. So let me give you an example. I study electric vehicles, among other things. I direct the vehicle electrification group at Carnegie Mellon. And if you want to regulate electric vehicles, there are many questions that come up. We've had some recent regulation that has been in the past year that's really changed the landscape. There are requirements for automakers to source materials from the United States in order to qualify for tax breaks. There's new public charging infrastructure that gets doled out by the federal government. This is in the US, and that states make implementation plans for. So there are a lot of policy-related questions. When should taxpayers be funding these things? When should we standardize versus allow industry to innovate? There are a lot of those policy questions, but in this case, if you don't know the technology, if you don't know the difference between a lithium iron phosphate and a nickel metal a cobalt battery chemistry, or you don't know the supply issues with lithium, and then it becomes harder to come up with good policy. So what we're really good at is for those kinds of technologies. A lot of examples in energy environment and in internet technology and communication technologies, and in innovation itself, like what's the government's role in trying to help companies to innovate and keep, stay globally competitive. So those kinds of questions usually involve knowledge on both sides in order to answer the questions well. That's our specialty.
Yeah, I agree with your point. And my domain, so financial services with blockchain technology, it is important to understand technological viewpoints to make good or well-organized regulation for this area. So I'd like to apply to the courses in which I can specialize in technological viewpoints. So thank you.
That makes sense. Yeah, and one thing that we could follow up with, please do send us a question and we can respond. And maybe Debbie, you can take a note. But in terms of what kinds of offerings we have on blockchain and crypto and those kinds of courses, you can take courses outside. Most students do take some courses outside of engineering and public policy. So a lot of the blockchain type courses might be offered in the School of Computer Science. You can count some of those courses toward your degree, but you can't take all of your courses there. Most of your courses will be in engineering and public policy.
Thank you.
Sure. There's a question in the chat about how different the courses for the ESTP and EPP are, and can students transfer from one to the other at a later stage? So in the first one, we actually do have Deanna Matthews has a nice chart showing the differences between the ESTP and EPP requirements, I believe. So that's something that we could follow up on. But in short, ESTP has more requirements for energy-related courses specifically, whereas EPP, there is more, you need the engineering policy intersection, quantitative background, and social analysis background. So, and then everything else is elective. So it's basically the set of required courses for engineering and public policy isn't all about energy, but it is about getting you the ability to do quant social in the service of engineering and policy. Whereas ESTP is a different master's program, and it is more focused on energy-related questions. Nestle, do you know about transferring? Is there anything to add about transferring between master's programs?
Yeah, I looked up. So there's the CIT policy that states if your program approves it, you can transfer up to 24 units, which would be 2 classes. And then the EPP handbook mostly talks about the transfer credit in relation to the PCHE agreement, which is within the universities here. But I would think that if it would go to the associate department head, the request, that's what it says. And I would think that if a student wanted to, if a PhD student wanted to transfer courses and try and limit the course requirements from how it's listed on the website, then a request to the associate department head would need to be made. And then the next guideline is College of Engineering only allows up to 24 units.
I see. So
at the program level, and I would think that your advisor, the PhD advisor, will have to be kind of be part of that conversation, I'm thinking. because the EPP website does not mention that when you look at the course requirements. So it must be like an exception that it's not an automatic, it's a petition, maybe.
I see. But to understand correctly, with the petition, it's still a cap at 2 classes, right?
That is correct. That's a CIT rule, which is CIT is College of Engineering, and EPP is kind of part of College of Engineering. So that is a College of Engineering rule.
I see. Thank you. Thanks for looking it up.
Yep.
Okay, great. And then there's a question in the chat about doing a master's degree in 2 different master's programs and if that's feasible. It is feasible. We currently do not have what we call joint programs, which mean if you are doing a master's degree, for example, in both material science and engineering and in engineering and public policy, that would mean meeting all of the requirements of both master's degrees. So that is certainly possible to do. It would take longer than doing just an engineering and public policy degree, of course. But students do that. We are discussing the potential for joint degrees in the future, in which there's an agreement between the 2 departments that there's a somewhat reduced set of requirements that still get you the joint degree in both. But we don't have any of those joint degree offerings in engineering and public policy yet. So if you are interested in doing that starting next fall, you would look at all of the requirements for engineering and public policy and all of the requirements for material science and engineering, and then you would need to meet both. Once you met both of those requirements, then you would get both degrees. Nestle, is there anything to add or correct from what I said?
I think that is the case for right now, but we do have precedent. We have the ETIM dual degree program where we count 12 units in between, and I'm sure that could be something that could be looked at, but there is not an official program as you stated. But
Yes.
double counting a class is an option, just one class. With
Yes.
approval from the, either the associate department head or Jeremey and things like that. If someone were to want to follow those 2 degree programs like that.
Yes, and that we have electives, multiple electives that can help with that flexibility, because an elective for this program could be a requirement for the other program, and that helps. So, and Misaki, I think that if your question is about the degree requirements, then you would send it to Nestle, and Nestle, maybe you could put your email in the chat. I will put mine for broad questions about the program. I can always point you to the person who might know more than I do.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure, sounds good. Okay, other questions? There's a question about, should the person applying need to have an engineering background, like his or her first degree? Does it need to be engineering? Usually, so I would say that the students that we are looking for have a technical or engineering background of some kind. Most commonly, their first degree is in an engineering field, but not always. We do get some applicants who maybe have their first degree in economics or some other field that is relevant, and maybe they have some technical exposure, perhaps at a job or something where they got some exposure. We do want our students to be deep in both engineering and policy so that they can manage this interface well. And there are opportunities to take additional technical classes as part of the degree in order to build up that engineering knowledge. But I would say that if a student didn't have any technical background at all, they might not be a good fit for the program. And then in terms of the application fee, Debbie, can you remember, do we have an application fee this year?
We do not. We waived that as well.
Okay, great. And then acceptance rate and intake numbers. Debbie, do you have those numbers offhand, or even if not the exact number, maybe we could talk in general?
We're looking for how many people we accepted or apply. Or are we looking for how many people accept our offer once we've made one?
Yes, sorry, you were cutting out a little bit, but
Oh,
yeah, I think the question is acceptance rate, like of all those who apply, how many are accepted? It is more than half. More
yes,
than half
definitely
of our
more of half.
master's
We're
applicants
running
have
probably
applied.
closer to 75%. We're fortunate that most of the people that actually apply to our program are admissible. So we have closer to a 75% rate of admissions.
Yes, in fact, I'd say these last couple of classes we've had of master's students have been really outstanding. We were very happy to see that we're attracting very strong applicants. So, so that's good. And then the intake numbers. So this past year, we have 9 students who are entering the program. They are joining members of the prior year's class who stayed for 3 semesters. So some of the students from the prior year graduated after 2 semesters. They started in August and graduated in May. But some of the students took 1 extra semester and are still here this semester. That includes 2 of the members of our master's committee. And so in the fall, the master's program is a little larger because it involves the students who are new as well as those who are finishing their last semester. So I hope that answers. We did have quite a few deferrals this past year, students who were accepted and accepted our offer to come, but then decided to defer a year. Sometimes this is because students are looking for funding. And we do have information on the website about how to look for funding. This is, there are limited partial fellowships that we offer to some of the top applicants to our program. So sometimes there will be some funding support from Carnegie Mellon, but we also strongly encourage applicants to apply for external funding as well to help support the costs of the degree. And we have a list on the website of places where you can apply, and you could look to see if it requires citizenship or other, you know, some of the programs are specialized to a particular domain area or a particular type of applicant. And so we maintain a list like that so that our applicants can apply and maybe end up with some funding to help support the cost of the degree. I think one of the students who started this semester had deferred from a previous year and then worked out the other things and was able to join us this year. So I'm telling you all of that because we have 9 students incoming, but we're shooting for a number higher than that. So I think it would be nice to have something more like 15 students in the class, and then you interact with some of the students from the previous class. Another nice thing about this program is that all of our master's students interact with our PhD students as well. So you'll find yourself in class in 701 and in 702 with PhD students. This is a really nice thing because it increases the diversity. Again, a lot of those students have prior experience in work or with another academic degree, and being able to interact with them enriches the experience of being in the program, I think. Other questions? Okay, wonderful. Well, hearing none, thank you very much for attending. I can hang out for a few minutes in case anyone had a private question or something that they wanted to ask. But I really appreciate you joining. Again, there's a lot of information on the website. I'll put the full website link in the chat as well. Here's a link to some of our students if you just want to see who some of the colleagues are. And I really encourage you to look at those videos that we put together because they give a sense of what the students think of the program and what their experience is. There's the main site for the Masters in EPP website, and it does include information both to the applicants, the main applicants from other universities, as well as the integrated BS-MS program for students who are already at Carnegie Mellon finishing a bachelor's degree and want to do a master's degree in engineering and public policy before they leave. Okay, thanks very much for joining, and we hope to see your application. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to get into contact with us. If we want to help you decide if it's the right fit for you, and we'd love to see your application if you think it is. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.